Hey everyone, it's Kong again with another episode, a normal episode of Should You Summon. As always, I'm going to be presenting high-level overviews to help you decide whether this banner is worth your hard-earned vouchers and crystals. This new Langrisser Reincarnation Destiny banner features Licorice, Mariel, and Tsubame, and runs from April 7th to the 20th. As a Destiny banner, the first SSR you pull is guaranteed to be one of the 3 on-banner heroes you don't already have. After you pop that guarantee, or if you do already have all 3 featured heroes, then it's treated as a normal rate-up banner with a 20% off-banner rate. First up, we have Licorice. Licorice is a healer and an AoE debuffer. Whenever she casts an AoE skill, including Mass Heal, every tile within the span gets an effect that heals allies and dispels a debuff. Night Bloom causes her spells to remove an additional debuff, and her unique helm speeds up her cooldowns when she doesn't deal damage. She has a transformation skill that turns her healing tiles into dark debuffing tiles, and her 3C is a huge AoE that heals allies and hurts enemies. She's a member of Langrisser Reincarnation, buffed by Ares and Hilda, Dark Reincarnation, buffed by Bozel and Licorice, and Princess Alliance, buffed by Luna, Shelfaniel, and Christiane. Her faction buff increases skill damage by 3% for each tick of cooldown the skill has, so most big skills like Black Hole have cooldown 5, so you're usually going to be getting up to 15% bonus skill damage with this. She sees most of her use in PvP, where she's a flexible support unit, dark faction buffer, and a decent healer. She unlocks the attack bonds for Florentia and Patsir, and the defensive bonds for Renata, Lucretia, Cortez, the Saint of the Ark, and Gustav. For her own bonds, she needs Ares for her defensive bond and Bozel for her attack bond. Next up, we've got Mariel. Mariel is a healer and DPS hybrid. She starts in healing mode, with boosted healing effects and 25% damage reduction, but she also deals half damage. The passive element of her 3-cost skill makes her automatically restore HP to the lowest 2 members of your team after each turn. After she initiates an attack, healing mode switches off, so she no longer gets those passive bonuses and penalties. Instead, she gets +3 mobility from her 3C, and she gets to act again. Her 3C attack strips 3 buffs, pushes the target back 3 spaces, and if the attack was guarded, it does extra damage. It also gives you plus 20% damage and guard ignore for your next action, so you can use it to set up a combo. Her unique weapon gives her a slightly faster cooldown on skills when she's in healer mode, and it gives her bonus damage dealt when she's in combat mode. She's a member of Langrisser Reincarnation, buffed by Ares and Hilda, and Legion of Glory, buffed by Ledin, Elwyn, and Grenier. She sees most of her use in PvP as well, with a kit that lets her swing the momentum of a match. She can bide her time and get some passive healing in to support your main healer while waiting for an opportunity to launch her 1-2 punch. For bonds, she unlocks the defensive bond for Suzette, and for her own bonds she needs Light of Genesis for her defensive bond and Rosalia for her attack bond. Of these 3 characters, Mariel is the only one who's already showing up on the upcoming banner schedule, alongside Patsir and Werner Dime in May. Finally, we've got Tsubame. Tsubame is an assassin. Part of her talent is typical ninja stuff, a boost to attack and skill based on how many enemies are around. The other part is based on enemies not being around. If she ends her turn without taking damage, and there are no enemies within 2 rings, she hides, making enemies unable to target her with attacks or skills. We're more familiar with this now from Epsilon, but Tsubame did it first. Her unique helm enhances this hidden status even further, giving her additional crit rate and mobility. It also straight up gives her a boost to damage dealt and protects her from some AoE damage, whether she's hidden or not. Her 3-cost skill is a fairly standard guard-ignoring, crit-boosting assassin attack, with the added bonus that she's allowed to move away 2 spaces after getting a kill, and she's allowed to hide even though she just did damage. She's a member of Langrisser Reincarnation, buffed by Ares and Hilda, and Meteor Strike, buffed by Zerida and Epsilon. She's not really built for bossing, but she can be set up to cheese some of the other basic content with Instant Flash, which lets her attack before her opponent if she has more skill. She's not a commonly encountered assassin in PvP, although I'm sure dedicated Tsubame diehards could set her up to be quite threatening, but she's not common for a reason. For bonds, she unlocks the defensive bonds for Florentia and Christiane, so that's an important one. And for her own bonds, she needs Maya for her defensive bond and Florentia for her attack bond. Okay, so here's the quick and dirty. We've got Licorice, who's a support character with oppressive terrain effects. She has a faction buff for Dark Reincarnation, and she unlocks the attack bonds for Florentia and Patsir and the defensive bonds for Renata, Lucretia, Cortez, the Saint of the Ark, and Gustav. We've got Mariel, who's a hybrid healer and DPS playmaker. She unlocks the defensive bond for Suzette. And we've got Tsubame, who's an assassin who can avoid being targeted, and she unlocks the defensive bonds for Florentia and Christiane. So let's move right along to the notes for noobs. Licorice is a solid overall character for PvP, with a faction buff and good support utility, but she's also turning into a major bond roadblock. Lots of characters, some important ones, rely on Licorice for their bonds, so overall she's worth summoning. Mariel is still pretty good, mostly for PvP, and Tsubame is alright. She's a niche unit for people who like to play with unique assassins, and to be fair, unique assassins are fun to play around with in PvE. She is needed for Florentia and Christiane's defensive bonds though, which are both important, enough to make her worth summoning. Finally, just my usual reminder about upcoming banners. The next must-summon banner will be the launch of new Florentia and new Virache in a couple weeks, at the start of the next major update. Next week should be another double Destiny week that sees the return of the Glorious Hair banner featuring Clotaire, Lanford, and Rainforce, and the old classic Landius, Juglar, and Yulia banner, which I suppose is also a Glorious Hair banner in its own way. And I guess that one's actually a must-summon banner too for newer players. I just mean Chancellor Florentia and Archon Virache are the next meta-important new characters. Alright, before we go, I'll just say a few words about the new gear that's launching this week as well. As you know, summoning for gear is generally a no-no, usually reserved for whales or established players who don't need to summon for characters as much anymore, and for that reason, in these videos I usually discourage people from summoning for gear, so I'm really just going to summarize this stuff to satisfy curiosity and provide context. Just enough for you to know what they do, then you can make the decision on your own if you want to go ham with your tickets. So the weapon is a hammer that disables special armor effects before battle, which gives you another way to not have to worry about last rites. There's a suit of heavy armor that reduces magic damage taken by 20% if you're in mixed forces, which is perfect to help make Lewin a little bit more resistant to mages. There's also a heavy helm that makes you do more counterattack damage when you're guarding an attack. Finally, there's an attack-based accessory that makes you immune to silence, so it's like a holy ring for people with muscles. And I guess that's going to be it for this episode, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next Should You Summon. Extra special thanks, of course, to our Langrisser tier channel members for generously supporting the channel directly. So shout out to Levitt, Derek Gunderson, Kate Soon, Jared Portela, Eden Seal, Jerome Meyer, and Shara Ilimerius. Thank you so much, everyone.